out with, that brick has absorbed a bunch of moisture. And I would never, ever put it into your landscape. Again, it's very, very sad to see. And hopefully that tip alone will make it worthwhile for you this morning in case you're thinking about using brick. But the concrete pavers are attractive. They hold up indefinitely and they look very, very nice. The last thing that I want to see you use in your landscape for the most part too is poured concrete. To me, there is absolutely no reason to pour a concrete sidewalk or anything like that into a landscape. Because sooner or later, one of two things is going to happen. You're going to change your mind about where you want it, and you've got a problem. Or else, again, something's going to happen to it. It's going to crumble. That big tree decides that its roots, everybody always tells me, oh, these roots are coming up to the surface. No, they're not. But if that tree root is 4 inches below the surface of the ground and it starts to grow, if it grows 2 inches down, it's going to grow 2 inches on top too. And while trees to me are not a real source of concern on most foundations, they certainly are on driveways and sidewalks because they will go right underneath those structures and continue to grow. You can create a sidewalk that is just as hard, just as easy to walk on with the pavers. You can, if you don't want to go to that route, if you want something even a little bit more rustic looking, create a flagstone sidewalk and use something like the granite sand that we've used to make our whole parking lot next door. But again, I really, really hate to see poured concrete because sooner or later it's going to cause you problems. And once again, there's absolutely no need, in my opinion, to use concrete out in the landscape. If you do decide that you have to have concrete out there, say for a deck or something like that, I don't know much about it. We may have architects here in the crowd that can tell us more. But there is a new technique that they call a porous concrete, that they can actually pour a slab or a sidewalk or whatever, that literally the water goes right through it. It's what they're requiring a lot of parking lots to be made out of these days because it greatly reduces the runoff in times of hard rain. And again, I just hate to see the surface of the ground ever covered with an impermeable material. That's causing us problems we can spend 2 or 3 hours talking about environmentally. But there are some nice options. Now, one thing I will caution you about if you decide to do a driveway or something and use the pavers like we've used out front, the concrete pavers, and there are a bunch of them pulled up over here. If you have any interest in those, you can take a look at them. But they're great to look at, but ladies in high heels do not like them. But if you're going to have, need a place to store a boat or a motor home or something like that, don't pour a concrete slab. If you need something hard to put it on, use something like this as your hard surface that you can park it on. You actually let grass grow up in those little plugs, and it's just a whole lot more environmentally friendly. It's a whole lot more attractive, again, than just going out and pouring a concrete slab or something like that. So anyway, no bricks, no concrete. Use the concrete pavers if you're going to use anything. Wood in the landscape. For the most part, it is a very, very good idea to never have any wood in contact with the soil underneath it. We've learned that the hard way around here, and it's for a couple of reasons. If the wood is in contact with the soil, sooner or later it's going to rot. It was less of a problem 20 years ago when they made better, but it had a lot of toxic stuff in it, when they made treated wood that actually pretty much resisted rot and insects. Not going to happen anymore because of concerns about arsenic, which are very, very valid. The new so-called treated wood, I would say, has a maximum life of 10 years if it is in contact with the soil. So what do you do about it? A couple of years ago when we replaced the deck on the back of the building, yes, we used treated wood as the framework for that, but there is absolutely no wood in contact with the ground. And if you look around the edges, you can see. You look at this little area, we redid a little arbor area up here. Everywhere that wood would normally be in contact with the soil, put a concrete paver underneath it. You go down and buy these cheap little 8x16 pavers or 12x12 pavers or whatever else. Any wood building you do, keep the wood out of contact with the ground and it will work extremely well. If you're going to use cedar, it's even more important than it is, with the treated wood. And if you will look around here and notice, when I built this building, not a single one of these cedar posts is in contact with the soil. There is a poured concrete footing there with this little specially made deal, has a bolt through the middle of it that's bolted down into the concrete. And you can build a perfectly sound structure without having to sink your feet into the ground. Again, unless you're very handy, unless you know a lot about construction, get with someone who knows, an experienced builder, an architect, or something like that can help you design it. I think these buildings would stand up to at least a moderate hurricane, the way we built them and braced them. But bottom line is no wood that's in contact with the soil. Yes, sir?
If you put a little square of carpenter,
you will add a great deal more to it, and if you'll create a little bit of airspace, even if you can't see it, you'll add a little bit more life to it.
What do you say?
He was saying put a little square of tar paper in between the wood and the concrete, and that definitely will add, to the life. If you were to look carefully at all the posts that surround the new deck up on the back of our building, every one of those posts is raised up about this far above the wood that it is sitting on. And what we did was just took a couple of stainless steel, or actually it's galvanized washers, and in 3 different places on the bottom of that 6x6, just took a roofing tack and nailed those washers to the bottom, which just holds it up. It creates a little airspace underneath there. You don't see it. I promise you wouldn't know it if you didn't look at it. I don't have to replace that deck again anytime soon. And these are just a few little things. But if you're building arbors, if you're building, a pergola, gazebo, whatever you want to call it, believe me, it will make a big difference. If you like a hot tub or something like that, and they recognize we're only going to have 6 days a year that you can use it in San Antonio, you're probably going to want to do some sort of decking around it and keep exactly this sort of thing in mind. And if you're going to do big areas of, in effect, wooden deck in an exposed area, go ahead and use the artificial wood. Some of it actually looks pretty good these days. This wood that we use here, of course, is natural wood, and it's what they call the 5/4 treated wood. And where you've got a roof over it, this stuff's going to last a long, long, long time. But if you're building a deck or something that is really out and exposed, some of these new synthetic wood products really do look good. For the most part, they're screwed together instead of nailed together, which again adds a great deal to the longevity. I've never been able to figure out how they make these lifetime surfaces, but they don't make anything to build the framework for, and that's going to rot out eventually. But again, if you keep it up and off the ground, that will make a world of difference, in how things hold up. Yes, sir.
What kind of wood would you recommend for a raised garden bed?
Probably none. If I were going to do a raised garden bed, again, I would go with the synthetic woods. But I prefer, for raised gardens, I prefer stacked rock or something like that. Again, it's easier to move around if you contours. No vegetable garden is ever big enough. You're going to want to expand it. It's a whole lot easier to unstack rock than it is to start cutting and pulling wood apart. Okay, another unrelated thing. If you're doing a sprinkler system, or more likely someone else is doing it for you, always insist that they use, in effect, heavier, stronger pipe throughout. Sprinkler system companies are always concerned about price, and everybody figures they're going to be bidding against everybody else. So, in a nutshell, the way a sprinkler system works is it's divided into zones around your yard, because with your water pressure, your pipe size, you can only run X number of sprinkler heads at one time. Nowhere in San Antonio do you see a big yard that all 100 sprinkler heads run at the same time. And of course, in flower beds, you're going to want them to run on different schedules than the grass. So what is in, and I only go over this because many people don't know exactly how a sprinkler system works, but you've got a water pressurized or water pipe with pressure and water in it that comes out to different points throughout your landscape. At each one of these points, you have a little electric valve called a solenoid, which turns on and off when your controller tells it to turn on and off in water. And then you've got the pipe that runs out to all of your individual sprinklers.